Oh, now we can start.
Oh, it feels much
Now
better
we can
suddenly.
start.
Yeah.
You know what's been lingering on my mind since the offside?
Tell me.
The ping pong game, playing for the serve. I know people won't get the reference, but it was still pretty fun.
But also, I think what needs to be on the record,
Oh no.
you and I playing against Andrew and Stim. And let's just say Mikkel and Tony are not the most athletic guys. Andrew and Stim are very much the athletic
very
guys.
athletic.
And I think we won
All the games.
20-0. And we're talking like 20 games. So this was essentially a best of 41. We won a best of 41. Not a single game lost.
I think we can end the episode now. Let's thank you, Tony.
Andrew walked away, and he's a co-founder. Andrew walked away, and he was basically like he was ready to just jump off a roof somewhere.
Yeah.
So that was over.
In a one-story building.
Couldn't even get that done. Sorry.
Oy. So we are going to talk about something around winning today. I guess that's what we always try and deal with, how we can win. We're going to talk about sales enablement. You called it the unloved child. Child.
It's the forgotten, ugly child in the corner of the sales room.
And I thought, so I discovered something last week. It was called Bravado. And for those of you who don't know it, it's an anonymous sales community. So you can already imagine now that the conversation is very blunt, very direct.
But it's also, so you get the incentives. There's an incentive scheme in place to engage, and you can get points for engagement, and then you can buy something in the Bravado store.
Yeah, so that's pretty fun. I obviously, there wasn't a choice to pick your role being marketing, so I took whatever. I snuck my way in there. Please don't kick me out. And the first thing I did was search for marketing, and that was a mistake. I should not have done that. They did not like marketing at all. But then I looked at sales enablement, and I found this thing that I just wanted to give you some of the highlights here. There's profanities in here. I'm going to try and just, edit it a bit down. Edit it a bit down. But the title is basically Sales Enablement Sucks and They're a Bunch of Fake Teachers. So that's already gold. And then it's, first paragraph is something like, hey, I feel like sales enablement doesn't know what they're talking about 95% of the time. They either have never sold, have little to no experience in sales, or they sold for 6 months 5 years ago, yet they advise on all aspects of sales and are supposed to create an onboarding plan for us. And then it goes on to a very specific thing. And then it's like, what annoys me is that on top of offering zero value, they are the ones annoyed when I am the one doing all the busy work instead of focusing on what really matters. Lastly, they don't do anything but talk about adding decks and saying hi to new hires. They are even worse than marketing. Wow.
Even worse than marketing.
And then there's a poll, is enablement effing useless? And 61%, that there's like 300 votes on this thing. 61% said yes, 22% no, and 17% other. So that's the tee up for today's episode.
I mean, I don't think we need to kind of spend the rest here now. I mean, I think the conclusions are done.
Yeah.
Sales enablement is fucking useless. That is correct 61% of the time.
Yeah. Yes. So, no. Well, we're going to talk about how do you make it use. I was going to say useless, useful, and actually provide value. So, what I thought we should do first is just talk a bit about, hey, what is it? What's actually the big deal here? What's the problem? What should it look like? How do we set this team up for success? Because it is a thing that can have a material impact.
Yeah. So generally speaking, you start thinking about sales enablement once you listen to your sales reps and are like, why is she pitching that?
Yeah.
What is going on in my sales team? And the larger story obviously is like it's about sales efficiency, right? So you want to basically make sure that people are trained on the best practices for your company in terms of how to pitch, obviously which deck to use is also in there, which questions to ask, which objections to be prepared for, and what competitors to have in mind, and so forth. There's a lot of stuff that needs to happen and needs to kind of land in someone's brain. And the problem is when you have 10 AEs and a sales manager, you're basically gonna run into this issue of the sales manager being really busy closing all the deals versus onboarding and teaching and doing all of that stuff with your sales reps. And if you don't do that, then you end up in this. Everyone is doing their own thing, and you're wondering why conversion rates are so low and why they're dropping. And it's this new rep. It's probably because he's new. Let's fire him again, right? You run into this very surface level root cause analysis and trying to understand what's wrong in your sales team.
Yeah.
And sales enablement is one way to deal with that. Now, could the VP of sales or director of sales or someone else also help out with it? Yes. Let's get into some of those different nuances in maybe a little bit. But that, generally speaking, that's it. And you could say that some of the metrics you want to attach sales enablement to, or where they should be helping with, ramp time for reps, successful completion of reps.
Yeah.
Right. So not just getting out faster, but more getting actually through it. Then you have something that's around retaining reps, and obviously an ongoing training / coaching. Those are two different things, we need to be careful with, but an ongoing training / coaching impact for your reps in order to either increase or improve your conversion rates, your ACVs, your average sales, your sales cycles, right?
Yeah.
That's basic. So basically, every metric around usually your account executives actually. Like break it all the way down is usually around the account executives. Having sales enablement for SDRs is almost a luxury. But let's dive into this just in a little bit, right?
Yeah.
So this is usually the remit of sales enablement.
So we should hop into the meat here.
Yes.
And I think one of the core things we should address is why even care about sales enablement. There was a lot of contention in this Bravado piece I just read aloud.
Yeah.
But I think getting to the heart of why does it even exist, why does it matter, is the first step.
Yeah. So and I think it's topical also right now, which really is efficient growth.
Yeah.
Right? We're kind of talking about this a lot.
So spend some money and that no.
Yes, spend all the money that you have. No, but the idea is obviously, and we've seen this in the stats. So basically, every single opportunity generating channel is down, or is having challenges.
Yeah.
You only get so many opportunities from that. You've probably scaled down on some of the very expensive channels to begin with, right? So you're basically left with fewer opportunities.
Yeah.
Period. And now one question you could be discussing in your management team is, okay, do we want to take some of that money that we're saving on the opportunity generation and maybe fund a sales enablement person from that? Because basically now the growth lever is not just more opportunities. Now the growth lever could be higher ACV, higher conversion rate, or faster cycle times, right? So at the end of the day, that is why that should be a conversation right now. There's also lots of topics on LinkedIn popping up around sales enablement, how important it is, and so forth. And I think that's the backdrop of that thing, right? I know myself, I've been on surprisingly many calls, people asking about sales enablement. And I think what is really important first is defining it clearly. There's lots of confusion out there because it is kind of weird. Actually, it hangs between different chairs, and it's a bit unclear. And kind of jumping into that maybe to
but it's like you're releasing a new product, feature, whatever. Product marketing does some work, introduces a new deck, trains the sales team on the deck, but then there's also sales enablement doing the same, and so it can be a bit weird for sure.
Yeah. So let's start out. So number one responsibility is around onboarding of new reps.
Yeah.
And this is almost where it goes into the first issue here. It actually shouldn't just be reps, sales reps, in terms of AEs. It should be SDRs, but why isn't it CSMs as well?
Yeah.
Right? Instead of just making it a sales enablement piece, it should be a revenue piece, right? Revenue enablement should be kind of the main point. And you have the classic onboarding in terms of training and teaching element here. And this is where you connect this to AE ramp length and success of getting out of ramp, right? Then you have an ongoing flavor to it around the training, ongoing product training, ongoing whatever competitor training, which is simply necessary due to the fact that your product is evolving, the market is evolving. People need to stay. People need to stay close to what's going on, right? And that there's something like that is necessary. Those are even pieces where I've heard a lot of reps basically say like, "Hey, this makes me a little bit happier in my role."
Yeah.
Because it's there is a bit of an ongoing development happening, right? And sure, it's not in anything that you might be interested. It's still kind of very professional, very much on your job, but kind of that helps to get better. And mastery is a clear skill that people are deriving joy from.
Yeah.
And then you can mix it also, and it's kind of the same bucket for me, methodology, right? So let's just say either you are rolling out Medic or MedPick or some of those concepts, or you have done it, so to reinforce that is being lived and breathed and so forth, right? So and this is actually where we're starting to get into like, but wait a minute, isn't that like a sales manager, sales director kind of responsibility? And it is. But this is one of the areas that I would say it's shared. Right? Then going to the next area, which is coaching, and that is a tricky one. This is also where some of the Bravado from Bravado comes from.
Yeah.
Because this is really about someone that needs to be very, very knowledgeable in this trade for that company, for that product, to then go in and give direct coaching to a person. We're going to talk about in which specific setup that can work out.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, for my organizations, I've already said coaching is for the sales managers.
Yeah.
They're just not exempt from that, right? Because suddenly it's like, well, sales enablement produces shit reps. I'm not responsible, lower my target.
Yeah.
No, this is still something that the sales manager is responsible for and should do. In some really cool setups, you can give that to someone sitting in sales enablement. We're going to talk about this in a second. And then the last piece is tooling, process and where to click and what to do and how to understand the whole thing.
Yeah.
Usually it's forgotten. And then you end up with, bad data.
Or tool that's not being used.
Yeah, exactly. And basically kind of having proper onboarding. And sure, if someone has been in Salesforce once and then is in Salesforce again, sure, that's doable. But think about, Salesforce outreach for the SDRs. That's very complicated. And lots of new folks joining haven't dealt with those tools before. Think about all of those data tools that you might have, Zoom, Cognizant, and so forth, right? There's a lot of that stuff that needs to be taught and understood.
Yeah.
Where something like this comes in.
Yeah. And I think you can probably find a ton of, great articles, videos talking about specifically the responsibilities, how to structure them and all that stuff. But for that to be successful, I think it also would be very interesting to talk about who are the folks that should drive those initiatives and responsibilities.
Yeah. So I think that if you have the luxury to specialize your sales enablement team, right? Because this is not a one person anymore. This is now starting to be a team. Then the way to go about it is for the onboarding and ongoing training on product and on the sales methodology and maybe on the competitive set. I think this could be a former sales manager or something like that, or someone that you hire into this role that has that specific skill set, right? And this is like a bit of a teaching piece, like adult learning piece.
Yeah.
Is that not how you say it?
Yeah, it just sound. Yeah, no, go.
Okay.
I'm a teenager in my mind.
I saw that. I saw that. And then that person will probably also be expected to create a framework around it, right? Not just this, we came up with this onboarding schedule 2 years ago. It's like, no, actually, no, let's figure out what that should be. How can we iterate that? Do some, 6-9 months later, hey, do you still know these things? What was good? What was bad? Do we need to do a refresher, right? There should be some ongoing optimization around this. And I think that very much nicely sits with, again, someone with a classical commercial background that decides not to move into a manager role or wants to go deeper in that speciality, but basically kind of transitions to that teaching side.
Yeah.
Then you have the tooling stuff. This usually ends up being a part-time job of revenue operations. That can also be put into the team that does the onboarding and the ongoing training. Usually the material for that and the, so not necessarily delivery, but the material of it will need to be owned and produced by revenue operations, right? And this is then also where either RevOps does it themselves or they have someone specialized in their team to do it, et cetera, right? There are kind of different ways to go about it, but that's usually one piece. The item that obviously always stands out is, no, I'm the
Toddler.
The item that usually stands out is coaching.
Yeah.
Because who earned the right to do the coaching?
Yeah.
Right. It's also a respect thing and so forth. And this is where I heard a really cool story about Gartner, the analyst firm.
Yeah.
It's really also just a big sales organization, by the way. They have few analysts and then have a lot of salespeople. What they're actually doing, and I'm not sure if they're still doing it like this, but you sometimes have this really good sales rep, really good on CVIs, all of those different metrics. Fantastic person, really good performer. Then you usually have a conversation. Okay, do you want to make this person a manager?
Yeah.
Or want to keep him or her in this role? And again, right, the best sales rep usually is not the best manager. That's proven by now. But here's basically, and the reason for that is, being good at sales doesn't mean you're good at management or leadership, period. And here now is a potential alternative career path for that person to go into sales enablement. So what happens next is, in my budget for a sales manager, I have that comp package because that's market. That's what we need to do. Right?
Yeah.
And if you want to go from AE to manager, I even multiple times had to have a conversation about I'm going to earn less. Why would I do that?
Yeah.
Right. And then you need to be like, well, you get a bit higher base. You have less chances of, hitting 200% of your target because of the team and so forth. But this is a career path, blah, right?
Yeah.
And people usually buy it and then they go for it. Also it carries this prestige with it. But on the sales enablement side, first of all, you don't have a competitive package at all.
No. I was going to say, it's going to be...
It's usually a terrible package.
Yeah.
Usually it doesn't carry any prestige, as the 61% of the Bravado folks are saying. And which then leads to something that I call negative selection. So who goes for that role?
Yeah.
It's reps that aren't successful in the first place, and then they are in there and guess what? They're failing because they're saying something and everyone's like, you're a fucking loser. Why should I listen to you?
But it's also a trust thing. Like, why would you trust someone who is doing a, worse job than yourself to then train you?
Yeah.
It's,
Yes. So what is Gartner doing? I kind of left this hanging here. What Gartner is actually doing, they are offering their best sales reps to become a coach for a year. And they're basically paying them the OTE that they hit last year.
Wow. So wait. So as that's just the base now.
So there are probably some bells and whistles attached to that comp plan.
Yeah.
But they're basically creating a very clear path for you to have the same outcome financially in your sales enablement role as you had, as a sales rep. And obviously, if you hit like 200% to target, then maybe they're not going to match that.
Yeah.
But they're going to make it so it's financially interesting.
Yeah.
There's probably less risk. There's also less upside. This typical spiel, right? And again, not everyone can just now this year I'm going to do coaching. There's obviously a little bit of a filtering. And are you interested in this sales and coaching area actually, or is it just what is it about and so forth, right?
Yeah.
But basically now you're increasing the pool of people that are interested in this by a lot because of the compensation. And the people that are then jumping into this probably had a higher compensation and now this is works out for them. and you have some immediate trust there from the other side, right? In terms of, okay, this guy knows what, or she knows what she is doing, so let me listen to that advice, right?
But it's also kind of cool because it will open up the opportunity for other AEs to actually reach out to that person. I know that AEs will work a lot together, but they're still, I have my deals that I need to close, so now I need to do that. I don't have time for you.
Yeah.
And if you're in sales enablement, I bet that more people will reach out knowing that this was a stellar performer last year, and I need to close this deal and have these challenges. Maybe it's a good idea to get some input.
But think about it like this, right? This, for an AE to get help, because of the competitive setup of those comp plans, because of this clear deal ownership thing, because of, and by the way, this is, we made up this word, and I heard it a couple of other times, because of the concept of no double bubble in I know I heard it from somewhere else as well, in compensation. So where there's like, there can only be $1 paid for $1 earned, so to speak, not multiple times. There's like, well, if someone wants to help you on your deal, you usually need to, depending on the help, you need to kind of give some percentage up, right?
Yeah.
So what happens? It doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And the only person helping you is your manager. And that manager probably is busy with all the other stuff going on. So now you introduce that sales element person. Suddenly it becomes like a awesome free resource.
Yeah.
Do I need to do do I need to share my deal with that person?
Yeah.
No.
I'll take it all.
No. It's like, he's just helping me out. So you get a lot of more pull from the team with this, right? And obviously kind of this role will end up like being, the likelihood of that role being more successful in that case is just so much higher. Right?
Yeah.
So I think that makes total sense. Again, I believe that a manager should still own part of the coaching, shouldn't just be like, hey, that's not part of what I do.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes around forecasting and pipeline management and some of these things. It's the manager owns the responsibility for this.
Yeah.
But in this case, you're basically kind of having a sales enablement function on steroids, right?
Yeah.
But again, you will have someone running around doing that stuff that's being paid $250,000 a year, right? So you need to be, and that will suddenly sit in your sales enablement, budget line item, and you need to prepare for that number. I don't think many are.
No. But I think it also then depends on the size of the organization. Yeah, there's a couple of factors to consider, but I can see very clearly how powerful it becomes that it's not this pseudo role of someone saying, yeah, you need to train them on tools. And then you also have this coaching thing on the side. Good luck with that. Mm-hmm. It's going to be really difficult, I think, to be successful if you can't establish the trust. And I think immediately you're going to be faced with, well, you have zero skin in the game. You have zero track record. Why should I listen to you?
Yeah.
Good luck closing that deal.
No, I know. But that goes for every single support role around sales, right? Oh, you don't have any skin in the game.
Yeah.
And it's obviously sometimes a little bit of a balance around that. But obviously for example, this onboarding process, there's a lot of just admin work that needs to happen around it, right? And by the way, we didn't even touch on creating sales material.
Yeah.
The pricing deck, the pitch deck, and all of these different things that where does that sit, by the way, right? So just kind of tap on that real quick. So I believe things like bottom funnel content, white paper or a customer case study or something like that. I think that should be staying in pro marketing or wherever in marketing. I'm not quite sure what your opinion on this is. Some of the pieces like a sales deck and maybe the pricing deck and so forth. I think you can have a very aggressive pro marketing team that also, says they need to own it.
Yeah.
If you have a sales enablement function that doesn't sit under marketing but sits under, somewhere else, I think those pieces could and should be owned by them. Actually, they will not do it in a vacuum. They will do it in collaboration with the reps and with marketing, obviously, to make sure the message fits and stuff. But I would actually kind of keep it there. And the reason why is there's lots of maintenance around it that you wouldn't believe that needs to happen around this thing. That pro marketing real quick is going to be like, okay, can someone else maybe own this? I had conversations around 20 different versions of the pricing deck.
Yeah, we had
You know?
Oh no! Now it's all coming back to me.
Yes. And then this is just the tip of the iceberg, so to speak, right?
I mean, this is almost an entirely different episode. It depends on a million things.
Yeah.
Do you have a strong CMO? If you have a strong CMO, then I can see a case where you give up some of the sales enable material because they can make sure that the story that should be told is actually landing in those decks, right?
What I'm learning from doing it myself here right now is the purpose of a website and the messaging there, and the purpose of a sales deck. They need to be connected, but they're different purposes.
Yeah, totally.
So, and that's why the angle sometimes also is a little bit different. Around it.
Yeah.
But let's not go too much into that.
So we talked a bit about now, why you should care, what is the responsibility, and who are the right folks to basically run it. I think there was, a pretty interesting piece on using top sales rep.
Mm-hmm.
But where should this function sit? That's kind of what we're sliding into now. And you kind of said, hey, sometimes it might be in marketing, sometimes it might be elsewhere.
Yeah.
I mean, can we give a silver bullet? Is that even possible?
Yes. Everything what we say is a silver bullet. All of this works. All of that solves all of your problem all the time. So there is an increasing voice out there that is saying it could be revenue operations.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to pause there now. The reason is almost, where else are you going to hang it?
Yeah.
And it's a little bit like having revenue ops roll into the VP of sales. It's like, that's a big no-no.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be doing that. And here's the same kind of thing. It's like, well, once you kind of strike the sales out of the equation and you call it revenue enablement, then there's only so many people this can end up with.
Yeah.
Right. And revenue operations is probably one of those. I think I wouldn't recommend this to roll directly to a CRO. I think it could hang under product marketing, which more and more tries to label themselves also as kind of a GTM hub, right?
Yeah.
Thinking about the whole GTM, both with what is the messaging on the top end, what can the product actually deliver, how are we selling this, how we're kind of making sure that this value sticks with our customers. So you could hang it there. It depends very heavily on, the person leading that piece, commercially enabled and or not. But revenue operations, especially from especially on the topics of onboarding, ongoing training, and then on tools, that's kind of a no-brainer to hang it under revenue operations.
Yeah.
I think where it seems breaking-ish is around the coaching side.
Yeah.
And I think if you do this Gartner approach, maybe you want to have those really highly expensive coaches. Maybe you want to have them roll up to the VP of sales, actually.
Yeah.
Be a resource for that person instead of being, somewhere else.
Yeah.
There could be something around that structure, right? So I don't want to kind of lock this in too much, but the more traditional pieces, they make a lot of sense to hang under revenue operations, I believe. I think one other little nugget that I just wanted to kind of throw in here, if you have a sales enablement team, if they're not the highly paid AE turned coach, if their main medium of receiving information is Gong, or other versions of that, listening to calls, try and make one little tweak, try and make them jump on actual sales calls live, introduce them, and have them participate in that pitch, and not necessarily leading it, but be part of it. And very quickly, because the situation is just different, you're looking at this just differently. When you're in it versus you're just listening to the radio, a lot of more things will pop up in their brain, like, oh, this is broken, this is broken, this is broken, this is broken. We kind of all of that stuff. So this is a little bit of a tweak on how you can empower the sales enablement team to get a bit more real on what's going on. And as a result, this might also be one of the reasons why the sales enablement team is being trusted more by the sales rep, because there's some, let's call it skin in the game, but there's some, they got the same reality check I got. And now I can trust your output a little bit more, because I know now we're a little bit closer aligned than you sitting in theory land over there.
I think this is the powerful stuff. So with this podcast, I could easily just have written up the show notes and said, here you go, right? But if I wasn't here recording with you, number one, it would actually be a terrible show. So
I don't think so. I think it would be
terrible
fantastic.
show. But also then, those small tweaks we have to our work rhythm, they wouldn't be there, right? And so I think you will just notice things you wouldn't have otherwise noticed that is actually helpful.
Yeah. And I think one last thing I would actually say is, it's kind of common practice that after some underperformance of a rep, you put them on a PIP, performance improvement plan. And in many cases, this is just the heads up, we're going to fire you in 2 months.
No.
Because of legal reason number 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah,
because our HR book kind of says it like that. So here's a PIP, performance improvement plan. But, we all know we're not going to really, improve your performance. So I think with good sales enablement, you can actually create a bit of a stronger case for improvement.
Yeah.
You put someone on a PIP and then you pair it with resources, right? Then there is now, there's now hours that you need to spend or that sales enablement is available for you that you can draw on in order to help you get better. Whatever that means, that might be different from your setup and so forth. But I think what makes a PIP much more fair is instead of, okay, you're telling me you're gonna, fire me. The only thing I can try and, improve here is try and work harder. If that was the problem, sure, that's an easy one. But many times that's actually not the root cause. The root cause is that they don't know how to do it better.
Yeah.
And if you don't give them any help, neither from the manager, because the manager in many cases is like, this kind of, wasted time now. I'm going to spend my time with my high-performing reps instead. Then you're creating the self-fulfilling prophecy here, right? Having sales enablement is like, hey, yes, I as a manager will sit down, but I have some other folks that also can sit down with you and get you better. That is now an actual proposition to try and improve someone instead of, this other approach that we're having here. Okay. So just wrapping up, we talked today about how everyone hates sales enablement, apparently.
And marketing.
And even more than marketing. And we went through a couple of different steps on how to see it differently, how to structure it, maybe how to also apply it for the full organization instead of just sales operation. And I think then we had a couple of like mini tweaks of, how you could enable sales enablement. Wow. In a way where they're automatically getting more impact in the organization and they're more trusted as an outcome.
And then obviously just rename it revenue enablement.
Yeah, call it. But actually, you know what? Scratch everything else, just rename it, and you probably have solved it.
Yeah.
It's like, sales enablement. We need something for the whole organization. Let's just call it revenue enablement. Done.
But you know what? It's a fun, maybe a fun outro story I can tell. The degree I took in school, in university, it had one name before, 90% men. They changed the name, nothing else, 50-50.
Yeah, it's like
It repelled all the guys.
Diet Coke didn't sell well with guys.
Yeah,
and then
exactly.
they called it Coke Zero.
And they were like,
anything
oh,
else
let me have it.
Yeah.
Let me have it.
Coke Zero.
No, exactly.
I can now finally, order it in a club without people looking at me. Hey.
Yeah. No, that's true. That's true.
Boom.
Great stuff. So, yeah, if you're listening to the audio version, why not check out YouTube, by the way?
Yeah.
You can actually watch us and watch how I forgot to record the first 5 minutes of the video.
Yeah, and when you see it go on, we have a green logo right now, not a pink one, so that might confuse you, but that was totally on purpose by Mikkel today.
Yes, everything is on purpose, even excuses and mistakes, all of it.
There we go.
Cool. Thank you, Tony.
Thanks a bunch, Mikkel. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.